Hey there, everybody. It's Eternal Snowman here with another episode of TLT recap and predictions. This time I'm going to be recapping week 2 and doing predictions on week 3. If you guys haven't seen it, there is a video on my round 2 matchup against Omega Dude DI or Gilgamesh 9. I also want to say here, because I didn't really say it in the other video, I want to give a lot of props to him for being able to beat me because I was saying at the time, like probably in that video, that I made a lot of mistakes, which is true. But I also want to give him a lot of credit because a lot of people aren't actually able to capitalize on those mistakes in a lot of cases, especially in kind of like a more amateur league like TLT. So even in like the more important tournaments, if you will, or the bigger tournaments, there's still people who were unable to capitalize in those big mistakes. So having somebody who is actually able to capitalize on some of the major mistakes I made is still pretty impressive. Although I still say that I didn't play well, I would give him a lot of credit for bringing the correct teams and playing well to be able to beat me. Um, yeah. Also, because I have been seeing this a lot within the threads, I would try to keep the shit posting within the threads to a minimum if possible. The thread is not really a place to be treating it like a chat room. You should be treating a thread like it's a Smogon thread. It's somewhere where you should only be using it to post your information. If you want to talk about TLT and have any issues, either like contact those people on Discord or contact them on Showdown. I mean, if you want to say something to me specifically, like probably contact me on Discord. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I did see a lot of shit posting in the thread last week, and I would try to avoid that just for like general reasons. Like I don't really want to get too in depth as to why I don't like that kind of behavior. But yeah, let's just go over the matches. So I know life. I believe Zwolber was inactive last week. And that's why their name is actually not here because they are like basically not going to be treated as a full-time player for the rest of the tournament because of inactivity issues. I'm Just Gray won versus Thunderbirds. This actually happened before I recorded my last video, so um, talked about it a little bit, but he played very cleanly in that set. Team Charm versus Trade. Unfortunately, Trade had to drop out of the tournament for personal reasons, which I don't want to get too into. But I am honestly wasn't too impressed with Team Charm. This is actually, I believe, the first match that they played because the other match was also a kind of invalidated. Or rather, I should say it was against Maple, who dropped out of the tournament. And so when I saw the game, honestly, Team Charm, I wasn't that impressed with their play. So I think this says not too much about their play. And moving forward, I don't really have that much faith in them, despite a lot of the hype surrounding them before this tournament. Sificon versus Henguini, which was actually, I actually got most of my predictions wrong this week. I did really bad compared to like last week. I got like most of the predictions wrong. Unlike the previous week where I had like almost all of them right except for like 2 or 3. This time I got like almost all of them wrong except for like 5 of them, which is really bad. But yeah, Sificon upset Henguini. I still view that as an upset in my opinion. Played very solid. Showed good team building and played pretty well. I think one of the games may have come down to luck, but it's Pokemon. It happens. Kather won against Blink Boy convincingly in 3 games, one of which was actually forfeit um, because of like basically you having some weird kind of tiering stuff this week, which I kind of tried to warn some people about, but both Kather and Luthier actually lost 1 game in both of these cases. But yeah, I think it really showed how much of a difference there was. Kather did play very cleanly in all 3 games, including the LC game, which I believe Blinkboy locked in LC. So it kind of just showed that he was much better here. So maybe people were actually sleeping on Blinkboy for like kind of the correct reasons. But Kather showed a lot of dominance and um, proved why he is one of the tournament favorites moving forward. GXC played against Maki. I think um, he dropped OU in kind of a really ugly game where basically was lost from team preview. It was basically like no answer to choice band Rillaboom except for like Corviknight, and then it was basically lost from there. So yeah, I think some people have said it before, but the trick to beating GXD in certain tiers is that he tends to have pretty predictable team selection, which is going to be something that can be exposed by some players later down the road. Maki was able to do this in the OU set specifically, but wasn't able to capitalize on that in the other two games, and lost UU pretty convincingly, as well as I believe the other tier was um, RU or PU. Shoot, I don't quite remember, but the other two games were very convincing. Um, but yeah, GXC was the I guess the key to beating him would be to try to capitalize on his team selection, as like I would say that a lot of the time it is relatively predictable, especially in OU. He likes to bring fat, especially in UU. He also likes to bring fats, Ubers, this kind of stuff. So if people do want to try to beat him, this is kind of like a blueprint. Maki was able to make it a lot closer than I originally would have thought, but yeah. Um, Pote versus Saba. Pote lost in 3 games. I was off on this one. Saba played very well in a lot of the games, but Pote also made some crucial misplays down the stretch. Hellray won as well. Very solid. Proved to play very well in Gen 8. Luthier, similar to Kather, also dropped a game because of team selection issues, but actually won that game. He won the UU game, which would have where he brought Volk, but that game was invalidated, and then he won the subsequent game anyway. Once again, this kind of thing is kind of just like asserting dominance. He won 3-0 in a best of 3. Um, but yeah, Luthier played very solid. Not much else to say. Not a Hacker won. Played solid. Stario versus Deckham. This one was one of the closer ones of this set or of this week. Stario played very solid. I think he actually won in 2 games, or was it 3? I'm not too sure, but it was a huge win for him. Played very well. APW also proved to be a top player. Sensei Axiu, also a very clean win over Kabila Puck. I believe that one was in 2 games, if I remember correctly. MJ won, Cheese won, and then I lost my set. In losers, I think most of the sets actually did go more as what I would expect. Sice winning, Ars9, Raj, Dragon beating Hellman. I can't really comment on this one because there was no replays. Geob actually did drop the set versus ETHEY, who played. I would say both players didn't play as well as I would have expected. Geob kind of fell into similar pitfalls as he did when playing against me. There's a bunch of Maple dropping out of the tournament. HYS played a very solid 2 games, and same with failures. Shadow Monster also showed up very clean, 2 wins from him. And then the last thing I want to comment on, I guess. Well, okay. Also, Pamplona dropped out of the tournament, but last thing I want to comment on is Lantern Light versus Pokeart. I think Pokeart played pretty well, but Lantern Light had a much poorer showing, having really, I wouldn't say poor team selection, but made a lot of crucial mistakes in team building that basically they didn't check over their team, which is just kind of like a really, really bad mistake to make. So that's the type of mistake that just instantly loses you games. And I don't know if that will be a continuing trend moving forward, but the games that they lost, or at least one of the games they lost, was basically lost from preview, and it was unwinnable. So yeah, let's just move into the predictions for week 3. And we'll break it down, or it's listed by the 2 O's, 1 1s, and 0 2s, which is a little bit helpful. So I Know Life versus Kather. This is probably, well, okay. I would say that by the nature of Swiss, the XOs are always the most interesting to watch because it basically refers to the players who are going to be the most successful, have been the most successful. So they're going to be playing against each other. I think specifically the ones that are going to be the interesting ones are all of these three top ones, as well as the Sensei XU MJ one. So a lot of these players are ones that I like basically pointed out before as either being dark horses or being top players that to watch out for throughout the course of this tournament. So I think Kather and I Know Life is going to be probably the most interesting one, just because Kather I think proved that he is a tournament favorite last week, and I Know Life is somebody that um, I've had my eye on for a while. I've talked about them as a dark horse for this tournament quite a few times in the past few weeks. So I am really interested to see how this goes down because I Know Life didn't play last week. So we'll see how good they are versus Kather. I don't. I would still say Kather is definitely favored here, but we'll see how it goes because on the other side is a relatively unknown commodity. He could definitely take Kather for a run for his money, but we'll see. I'm Just Gray versus 100% GXC. I think GXC is better here. I wouldn't say he's much better, but I think he's favored here like 60-40. Luthier versus Saba. I think Luthier is just much better here. Saba did have a good showing versus Pote, but I think Luthier is a much different opponent than Pote, and the level of skill difference is relatively big. So I think Luthier should be pretty favored here, like 60, 62, 38 or so. Naughton Hacker versus Hellray. Non-Hacker beat Totes pretty cleanly last week, but I think Hellray has had a very good performance up until now this tournament. Although his quality of opponents may not have been the highest, I think personally, like from what I've seen from his team selection and play, I think he has leveled up a little bit since basically last time, um, since like last TLT and stuff. So I'll say Hellray here is favored. I'll put him 55-45. Star Real versus APW both have had good showing so far, but I think Star Real is a better player overall. I think that Star Real's or their strengths overlap in OU. And I think Star Real is better at that as well. So APW will probably lock something like UU. And if they bring equal team prep and stuff, I think Star Real will be favored here. But it should be a relatively close one at 55-45. I think MJ and Sensei Axio is probably the closest of the two O's. Both of these players are very good, but I think Sensei Axio has a lot more experience in Gen 8 specifically. He probably has access to better team support as well. I'm going to favor my boy MJ here. He's played extremely well in the games leading up until now, so I have a lot of faith that he can put something together. I think it's going to be really, really close though, but I'll favor MJ, just personal bias, 51-49. I'm rooting for him as well. So Team Charm versus Cheese. I think Cheese is much better here. He's had very good showings. The stuff I've seen from Team Charm so far has been kind of mediocre. So I'll say Cheese is favored here, 60-40. Gilgamesh versus Sificon. I will say that this matchup is very close. Gilgamesh, I think, was played, or Omega Dude DI played extremely well in our set when we played this week, but he didn't have that good of a showing in week one. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what shows up. I think Sificon has had a pretty good TLC so far. So I'll favor Sificon slightly at like 51-49, but I think this one is very close. And it depends a lot on what kind of what kind of Gilgamesh slash like Omega Dude DI, like how he shows up on that on this week, or like what kind of team prep and all that kind of stuff. Sice XV versus Skipcan. I think Skipcan is much better here. Although he did lose pretty convincingly to MJ, I do think that he is still much better here. And then my match, which I won't predict, Roxy versus Blink Boy. I think Blink Boy is much better here. Roxy did have a pretty good showing against Trade in week one, but I do think Blink Boy will be able to bounce back from his match against Kather and take this one pretty cleanly. I think Blank Boy will be favored around 60-40 here. HYS versus Thunderbirds. I think HYS is much better. I was like basically proven last week on my assumptions on how good they are when they won their match 2-0 in a very clean fashion. I think Thunderbirds isn't that good. Their match versus Gray was I'm just Gray wasn't impressive at all. It didn't really show me anything. So I'm favoring HYS here, 65-35. Maki versus 52 Gambit. I think Maki had a really, really good showing against GXC, mostly in the team prep category. So I'll favor Maki here, 60-40. Prince of all tacos versus Mr. Do Too Much. I think I'll favor Pote here, 60-40. Mr. Do Too Much did beat LCAP last week, but based on team selection and play, I don't really see that much from him. I think that was more a reflection on LCAP as than it was on Mr. Do Too Much. Shadow Monster versus Pokeart. I think Shadow Monster is much better here. I think it's 60-40 here for Shadow Monster. Surfy Teen versus 7U9I2. Favor Surfy Teen here. 55-45. I think it'll depend on how well they show up, but I will favor them slightly. Balor versus Sets. I think Sets is better here. Probably just like 55-45. Sets did have a pretty good match in round 2, where Balor I think didn't really show much of anything in round 2. Raj.Shoot versus Henguini, which is going to be one of the best sets in the 1-1 bracket. I do think that Raj didn't have a good showing at all versus MJ, but Banjozolol also didn't have a good showing in round 2. But I do think Banjozolol is a better overall player. I do think this one will be pretty close, but I'll favor Banjozolol 55-45. I do think this is one of the better matchups in the 1-1 bracket, though. Tote versus Deckham. I think Deckham is just much better. I think this is like 65-35. ETHEY versus the Green Roman. This is going to be a kind of interesting matchup. They're both relatively newer players who, they've been talking a lot on the thread. So this will be kind of interesting to see who can put up and back up their word. I think the Green Roman had better performances throughout the course of the first 2 weeks, though. His team selection specifically is something that I've been looking out for, and that's been pretty clean so far. Richard Pepper versus Angels and Airwaves. I think Angels and Airwaves is better here. Favor them about 55-45. Kabila Pak versus Fat Fighter 2. This one will be kind of interesting. Kabila Pak didn't really have a good showing after beating Ars9 in round 1. We didn't get to see the replays for that round 1 matchup, but in round 2, I didn't really see too much from them when playing up against, I believe, Sensei Axio. I think Fat Fighter 2 had... who did they play in round 2, actually? Oh, they had a bye. So we haven't seen that much from them either. I don't know how good both of these players are. I feel like Kabila Pak might just be better just because of that he beat Ars9 previously. But both, like, all the sets that we've seen from both of these guys are O2 or like are O2 combined, because they both lost one game individually, and the ones that they won either were against buys or against hidden replays. So I can't really judge. Kabila Pak probably is better, but I don't really know. Ronman versus Hoopa 590. I think Ronman is better here. Hoopa didn't show up very well in their matchup versus Shadow Monster. Lantern Luck versus Alternif. I think Alternif is better here. Showed up better in the matchup so far. And then Geove, I think, is better in versus Halaman, who hasn't played very well up until this point. And then Mikoi versus Atiman, I think I'm not really sure who's better, but I'll favor Atiman slightly because Mikoi hasn't really had very good performances up until this point. So that's about it for predictions this week. Let me know what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and leave a comment. If you didn't, I'm not sure why you're still watching, to be honest. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time, probably for the actual recording of the round, and then for the predictions next week. Yep.